Happy New Book Day! It's happy, happy, happy New Book Day. Happy, happy, happy New Book Day. But this one is not a fun book. I'm sorry. But if you want to have a useful brain, you have to understand things. So, this one is Propaganda by Bernays, and it's really hard for me to just summarize this very well, but we're going to summarize it by reading the back. And we're going to take this book real slow, because I'm telling you what I have tried to read 2 chapters of it out loud, and so we're going to take it slow, we're going to break it down, and we're going to live edit as we go. We don't need to every single detail, but it is a fascinating and controversial look at how government and corporations control how we think and act. Propaganda outlines Edward Bernays' early, persistent vision for regimenting the collective mind. Originally published in 1928, this manual of mass manipulation provides a detailed explanation of how public discourse and opinion are shaped and controlled in politics, business, art, education, and science. In a world dominated by political spin and media manipulation, Propaganda is an essential read for all who wish to understand how power is used by the ruling elite of our society. So, this book has got a lot of relevance. It had relevance over the last 100 years while it was learning the ins and outs of its doings. And it has relevance now, because by understanding and by use of some of the things you're going to learn, you'll be able to find other sources of information, and you can pretty much learn. But you got a lot to go before you understand freedom. A lot to go. And most of what I like to teach is how to attain your own liberation, your spiritual liberation, your psychic liberation, your psychological liberation, and all I got for you on that account is I can point to various people, but you have to do the work yourself. And sometimes the work is a boring slog. Join me in my boredom. And because I am very bored with this, I will talk in different ways. Okay? When I get bored, I'll talk in different ways. Here we go. Chapter 1. Let's do it. You'll be so much smarter when we're done. It's like taking medicine. Nobody likes medicine. Okay. Right, 3 minutes to get into it. The conscious and intelligent manipulation of the organized habits and opinions of the masses is an important element in democratic society. Those who manipulate this unseen mechanism of society constitute an invisible government, which is the true ruling power of our country. We are governed, our minds molded, our tastes formed, our ideas suggested, largely by men we have never heard of. This is a logical result of the way in which our democratic society is organized. Vast numbers of human beings must cooperate in this manner if they are to live together as a smoothly functioning society. I need a reading aid. I know it sounds like controversy, like conspiracy, but dig into it, watch, see examples salesmen study this stuff and they use it to make commercials to persuade the public. There's other books that ride on and develop the knowledge that he's saying, so that he has much support, even though it sounds like right-wing extremism. It's not. It's what it is. It's what it is. So take it lightly, listen, learn to discern. Our invisible governors are, in many cases, unaware of the identity of their fellow members in the inner cabinet. They govern us by their qualities of natural leadership, their ability to supply needed ideas, and by their key position in the social structure. Whatever attitude one chooses toward this condition, it remains a fact that in almost every act of our daily lives, whether in the sphere of politics or business, or in our social conduct, or our ethical thinking, we are dominated by the relatively small number of persons, a trifling fraction of our 120 million, well, that was way back then, 120 million, we're 350 million now, of our trifling fraction of our 120 million, who understand the mental processes and social patterns of the masses. So very few understand just how the collective operate. Buddha willing, if I get to the 3 or 4 books ahead, where I expand on this education, we'll start to understand some of these patterns of the masses and why do we act the way we do in big groups. This is called the study of crowd psychology, which Bernays started to lay this foundation for. And we'll have that book. So, want to do extra homework? Read channel content idea, or watch channel content ideas, and that explains the next set of books in the curriculum I have in mind before I die. Before my birthday. And before I die. Because I'm well aware that my books are going to go to a landfill. Nobody's interested in what I have to do and say. No reason not to do it. Because there's always a chance. So let's talk. It is they who pull the wires which control the public mind, who harness the social forces and contrive new ways to bind and guide the world. It is not usually realized how necessary these invisible governors are to the orderly function of our group life. So it's not usually realized how necessary these individual governors are to the orderly function of our group life. In theory, every citizen may vote for whom he pleases. Our Constitution does not envision political parties as part of the mechanism of government, and its framers seem not to have pictured to themselves the existence in our national politics of anything like the modern political machine. But the American voters soon found that without organization and direction, their individual votes, cast, perhaps, for dozens of hundreds of candidates, would produce nothing but confusion. Invisible government, in the shape of rudimentary political parties, arose almost overnight. Ever since we have agreed, for the sake of simplicity and practicality, that party machines should narrow down the field of choice to 2 candidates, or at most 3 or 4. In theory, every citizen makes up his mind on public questions and matters of private conduct. Every citizen makes up his mind on public questions and matters of private conduct. In practice, if all men had to study for themselves the abstruse economic, political, and ethical data involved in every question, they would find it impossible to come to a conclusion without anything. Basically, nobody's got the time to do all the research to have the best educated, most proper information. We have voluntarily agreed to let an invisible government sift the data and high spot the outstanding issue so that our field of choice shall be narrowed to practical proportions. From our leaders in the media they use to reach the public, we accept the evidence and the demarcation of issues bearing upon public question from some ethical teacher, be it a minister, a favorite essayist, or merely prevailing opinion. We accept a standardized code of social conduct to which we conform most of the time. Okay?
You got that, Sonny? That'll be on the test.
So, they take all the science involved and all the things behind the scenes, and they present to the public the highlights, the cliff notes, the blooper reel. You know, they give us that, and we generalize that they have our better interests at heart, or that they're not lying about anything. Most of our opinions about modern historic affairs are fed to us completely through these ethical teachers and ministers, essayists, the prevailing opinion. We accept a standardized code of social conduct to which we conform most of the time. In theory, everybody buys the best and cheapest commodities offered to him on the market. In practice, if everyone went around pricing and chemically tasting before purchasing the dozens of soaps and fabrics or brands of bread which are for sale, economic life would be hopelessly jammed. So if we did try to do all that research, we'd never make enough purchases to keep the companies afloat. To avoid such confusion, society consents to have its choice narrowed to ideas and objects brought to its attention through propaganda of all kinds. There is consequently a vast and continuous effort going on to capture our minds in the interest of some policy or commodity or idea. So, this is where you get into people paying for the research to prove that their own item they manufacture is safe. Then you get into conflict of interest because a person works for the company that's regulating it and works for the company who's trying to sell it. That means that they get extra money to agree with the company because, you know, they like them too. They're not being impartial. Those are not nice things. But at any rate, so there's a vast and continuous effort going on to capture our minds in the interest of some policy, commodity, or idea. It might be better to have, instead of propaganda and special pleading, committees of wise men who would choose our rulers, dictate our conduct, private and public, and decide upon the best types of clothes for us to wear, and the best kinds of food for us to eat. But we have chosen the opposite method, that of open competition. Well, see how he says that there's only two different ways? You might want to research if this is a false dichotomy or simply the only dichotomies we have. Either somebody tells you what to do, or people compete for your doingness. You know, they compete for your activity, for your loyalty. In open competition, We must find a way to make free competition function with reasonable smoothness. To achieve this, society has consented to permit free competition to be organized by leadership and propaganda. Bam, bam. Some of the phenomena of this process are criticized: the manipulation of news, the inflation of personality, and the general ballyhoo by which politicians and the commercial products and social ideas are brought into the consciousness of the masses. These instruments by which public opinion is organized and focused may be misused. But such organization and focusing are necessary to orderly life. As civilization has become more complex, and as the need for invisible government has been increasingly demonstrated, the technical means have been invented and developed by which opinion may be regimented. With the printing press and the newspaper and the railroad and the telephone, telegraph, the radio and airplanes, ideas can be spread rapidly, even instantaneously, all over the whole of America. H.G. Wells senses the vast potentialities of these inventions while he writes in the New York Times.
Modern means of communication, the power afforded by the print, telephone, wireless, and so forth, have rapidly putting through directives, strategic, or technological conceptions to a great number of cooperating centers, of getting quick replies and effective discussion, have opened up a new world of political processes. Ideas and phrases can now be given an effectiveness greater than the effectiveness of any personality and stronger than any sectional interest. The common design can be documented and sustained against perversion and betrayal. It can be elaborated and developed steadily and widely without personal, local, and sectional misunderstanding. End quote. What Mr. Wells says of political processes is equally true of commercial and social processes and all manifestations of mass activity. The groupings and affiliations of society today are no longer subject to local and sectional limitations. When the Constitution was adopted, the unit of organization was the village community, which produced the greater part of its own necessary commodities, generated its group ideas and opinions by personal contact and discussion amongst its citizens. I'm not doing this right. But today, because ideas can be instantaneously transmitted to any distance and to any number of people, this geographical integration has been supplemented by many other kinds of grouping, so that persons having the same ideas and interests may be associated and regimented for common action even though they live thousands of miles apart. This was before the internet, and they had such capacity for control. I've often wondered how do things get famous? How did that become viral overnight? How? It doesn't seem to make sense that you could get that many people to like something or whatnot. It's fascinating. We don't have time to sidetrack. I'm trying to keep these short. How many pages do we have left? Oh yeah, we can do this. Let's get serious. We're studying life right now. Okay. It is
is extremely difficult to realize how many and diverse are the cleavages in our society. They may be social, political, economical, racial, religious, or ethical, with hundreds of subdivisions of each. In the World Almanac, for example, the following groups are listed under the A's, and I'm not going to read them all. The League to Abolish Capital Punishment, Association to Abolish War, American Institute of Accountants, Actors' Equity Associations, and so forth, and so on, and so forth, and Anti-Cigarette League, Anti-Profanity League, Archaeological Association of America, National Archery Association. There are many more under the A's section of this very limited list. The American Newspaper Annual and Directory for 1928 lists 22,128 periodical publications in America. I have selected at random the INs published in Chicago. They are abridged. Narod, the Bohemian Daily Newspaper. Narod Pulaski, Polish Monthly. NARD, Pharmaceutical. National Corporation Reporter. National Culinary Progress for hotel chefs. National Dog Journal. National Drug Clerk. National Engineer. National Grocer, and so forth and so on. The circulation of some of these publications is astonishing. The National Livestock Producer has a sworn circulation of 155,578. The National Engineer of 20,328. The New World, an estimated circulation of 67,000. The greater number of these periodicals listed, chosen at random from among 2,128, have circulation in excess of 10,000. The diversity of these publications is evident at a glance, yet they can only faintly suggest the multitude of cleavages which exist in our society, and along which flow information and opinion carrying authority to individual groups. Here are the conventions scheduled for Cleveland, Ohio, recorded in a single recent issue of the World Convention dates. A faction of 5,500 conventions and rallies scheduled, and they are the Employing Photo Engravers Association of America, the Outdoor Writers Association, the Knights of St. John, the Walther League, the National Knitted Outerwear Association, the Knights of St. Joseph, the Royal Order of the Sphinx, the Mortgage Bankers Association, the International Association of Public Employment Officials, the Kiwanis Club of Ohio, the American Photo Engravers Association. Other conventions to be held in 1928 are those of the Association of Limb Manufacturers Association, the National Circus Fans Association of America, the American Neuropathic Association, the American Trap Shooting Association, the Texas Folklore Association, the Hotel Greeters, the Fox Breeders Association. The National Pickle Packers Association, not to mention the Terrapin Derby, most of them with banquets and orations attached. If all these thousands of formal organizations and institutions could be listed, and no complete list has ever been made, they would still represent but a part of those existing less formally, but leading vigorous lives. Ideas are sifted and opinions stereotyped in the Neighborhood Bridge Club. Leaders assert their authority through community drives and amateur theatricals. Thousands of women may unconsciously belong to a sorority which follows the fashions set by a single society leader. Life satirically expresses this idea in the reply, which it represents an American as giving to the Britisher who praises this country for having no upper and lower classes or castes. Yeah, all we have is the 400 and the white-collar men, bootleggers, Wall Street barons, criminals, the DAR, the KKK, the colonial dames, the Masons, the Kiwanis, the Rothtorians, the KFC, the Elks, the Censors, the Cognoscienti, the Mormons. Heroes like Lindy and the WCTU, politicians, Mechanites, and the Bobsoi. Immigrants, broadcasters, and the rich and the poor. Yet, it must be remembered that these thousands of groups interlace. John Jones, besides being a Rotarian, is a member of the church, a fraternal order, of a political party, of a charitable organization, of a professional association, and of a local chamber of commerce, of a league for or against prohibition, or of a society for or against lowering tariff, or of a golf club. The opinions which he receives as a Rotarian, he will tend to disseminate in the other groups, in which he may have an influence. This invisible, intertwining structure of groupings and associations is a mechanism by which democracy has organized its group mind and simplified its mass thinking. To deplore the existence of such a mechanism is to ask for a society such as never was and never will be. To admit that it exists, but expect that it shall not be used, is unreasonable. Emil Ludwig represents Napoleon as ever on the watch for indications of public opinion, always listening to the voice of the people, a voice which defies calculation. Do you know, he said in those days, what amazes me more than all else? The impotence of force to organize anything. It is the purpose of this book to explain the structure of the mechanism which controls the public mind, and to tell how it is manipulated by the special pleader who seeks to create public appearance for a particular idea or commodity. It will attempt at the same time to find the due place in our modern democratic scheme for this new propaganda, and to suggest its gradually evolving code of ethics and practice. So the one is done. Bye-bye. See you later.